$2 million sounds like a fortune. It sounds like the kind of number that should buy you a stress-free retirement, first-class flights, a house with an ocean view, and enough left over to spoil the grandkids every Christmas. But here's the question nobody wants to ask out loud. Is $2 million actually as much as it sounds like in Australia in 2026? Or is it just a big number that quietly disappears once rent, groceries, private health insurance, and 20 or 30 years of everyday living get their hands on it? Stick around, because by the end of this video, you will know exactly how far $2 million really stretches in retirement, what kind of lifestyle it can genuinely fund, where it can quietly run out faster than you'd expect, and how it compares to what the age pension and superannuation actually give most Australians. If you are planning your own retirement or helping a parent plan theirs, this is the video you need to watch properly right to the end. Welcome back to Australia Pension and Centrelink Update, the channel that helps you understand exactly what your money and your entitlements really mean for your future. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because we break down superannuation, the age pension and everyday retirement costs in plain English. No jargon, no confusion, just the numbers you actually need. Now, let's get into it. Let's start with the baseline, because you cannot understand what $2 million means until you understand what most Australians are actually working with. According to the latest ASFA Retirement Standard, a single person needs roughly $56,000 a year to live comfortably in retirement, and a couple needs. This is one of the most overlooked factors in Australian retirement planning, and it's why two people can both retire with $2 million and end up with completely different qualities of life. Now let's talk about healthcare, because as you age, this becomes a bigger and bigger slice of your spending. Private health insurance for a couple in their late 60s or 70s can run several $1,000s a year, and that's before out-of-pocket costs for specialists, dental work, physiotherapy, and the general wear and tear your body experiences over decades. Medicare covers a lot in Australia, which is genuinely one of the advantages of retiring here compared to countries like the United States, but private cover, pharmaceuticals, and elective procedures still add up. A well-funded $2 million retirement should absolutely account for rising healthcare costs, especially in your 80s and beyond, when medical spending tends to increase significantly. Here's something a lot of people don't think about. With $2 million in assets, you are very likely to be assessed as ineligible for the age pension, or eligible for only a small part payment, depending on how your assets are structured and whether your home is included in the assets test. Centrelink's assets test has thresholds that determine how much pension you receive, and once your assessable assets climb into the high six figures, your pension entitlement tapers down quickly, and by the time you're sitting on $2 million in super and investments outside the family home, you are almost certainly self-funded, meaning no age pension income at all, or perhaps a very small residual payment. This actually matters more than people realise, because it means the full weight of your retirement, healthcare and longevity risk sits entirely on your own portfolio. There's no government safety net topping up your income the way there is for retirees with more modest balances. That's not a bad thing. It just means the discipline of managing that $2 million properly becomes even more important. So how do you actually make $2 million last, potentially for 30 or more years? This is where sequencing and structure matter enormously. Retiring into a market downturn in your first few years can do serious damage to a portfolio, even a large one, because you're withdrawing money while your balance is falling, which locks in losses. Many financial planners recommend keeping a cash buffer of 1 to 3 years' worth of living expenses outside of volatile investments, so you're never forced to sell shares or growth assets at a bad time just to fund your lifestyle. It also matters how your $2 million is split between superannuation, which in retirement phase in Australia can generate completely tax-free income once you're over 60 and drawing a pension from it, versus money held outside super, which may be subject to different tax treatment depending on how it's structured. Let's put some real numbers to different lifestyles, because this is genuinely where the video gets useful. If you're spending around $80,000 a year from a $2 million portfolio, and that portfolio is earning a reasonable long-term return, historically it's realistic to expect that balance to last well beyond 30 years, potentially even growing in real terms if markets perform well and you're not drawing more than your investment returns in strong years. If you scale up your lifestyle to $100,000 or $120,000 a year, which might include significant international travel, a holiday house, or supporting adult children financially, you're drawing down closer to 5 or 6% annually, and that introduces meaningfully more risk of running short in your 80s or 90s, particularly if there's a serious market downturn early in retirement or unexpected aged care costs later on. And that brings us to aged care, which is honestly the retirement cost that catches the most people off guard. Entering residential aged care in Australia can involve a significant upfront accommodation payment, often called a refundable accommodation deposit, plus ongoing daily fees. For a couple, if one partner needs high-level care, this can represent a six-figure cost that most people simply don't plan for in their 30s, 40s, or even 50s when they're first building their super balance. $2 million gives you significantly more breathing room to absorb this kind of cost without it derailing the surviving partner's lifestyle, which is honestly one of the strongest arguments for aiming well above the ASFA Comfortable benchmark if you're able to. So pulling this all together, does $2 million go far in Australian retirement in 2026? The honest answer is yes, remarkably far for the vast majority of retirees. It comfortably clears the ASFA Comfortable Lifestyle benchmark. It can fund a genuinely enjoyable retirement with regular travel, a good car, private healthcare, and financial breathing room. And it gives you a real buffer against the two biggest wildcards in retirement planning, which are unexpected health costs and the possibility of needing aged care later in life. Where it can come under real pressure is if you're renting rather than owning your home, if you're supporting adult children or grandchildren financially, if you retire early and need that money to last 40 plus years instead of 25 or 30, or if a market downturn hits right as you begin drawing it down. The number itself is impressive, but how far it actually goes comes down to where you live, whether you own your home, how disciplined your withdrawal strategy is, and how well you've planned for the costs that tend to sneak up in your later years. If you found this breakdown useful, do me a favour and hit that like button. It genuinely helps this channel reach more Australians who are trying to figure out exactly what their retirement really looks like. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Australia Pension and Centrelink Update because we publish new videos regularly breaking down super, the age pension, Centrelink payments and everyday retirement planning, all explained simply and honestly with real numbers instead of vague promises. Drop a comment below and let me know what number are you personally aiming for in retirement and does it feel realistic based on where you're at right now. I read every comment and I'll see you in the next one.